And for our meeting where we get to taste everybody's honey and there's judging contest. And so if you did not receive a judging sheet and some spoons, just holler at us. We'll get you going after we're ready to do that. Before we get into that, we have a special guest this evening, John Strauss, and he is from Environmental Protection Specialist 2.
Yes, sir.
And he is going to be talking to us about the Cottage Industry Act and what entails when you're preparing your honey, if you're going to be selling it, and fielding a lot of questions. So he's going to take off here in just a minute. We're glad that he's here. But we'll hit our Toyota 4Runner. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our treasurer, you have a.
Me.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Mom and daughter, they both do something, yeah.
Do something around here. So our PayPal account, we have $38.11, and our Alpine, we have $3,816.48, so totaling $3,854.59. That's gonna go down a little bit with some of the things that were purchased today, but
Yeah, just a box rent, PO box rent and some other things there, so. And our secretary,
I don't have anything,
awesome.
other than I was late.
Okay, no, and then our media officer,
So remember that we've got the YouTube channel up and running now. We did make the Beekeeping 101 public. So tell your friends about it if they want to see it. You can listen to Jason for 4 hours. There's a lot of information in there.
so if you have insomnia, need to sleep, that's a good way to do it. Okay.
I will be making up a survey to put out so we can get our, what we did good, what we did bad. Next month, we'll try to get that. It'll be a link in the email or in the newsletter. And then we'll also send out a separate email to make sure that you guys get a chance to please fill that out. We'll review it next month. We'll kind of do, in addition to whatever else we're doing next month, we'll do kind of a year in review and figure out what we did good, what we did bad, what we can improve on starting for the next year. Normally, we don't do a Q&A in October. Does anybody feel that they need to have that Q&A in 2 weeks? We got enough information. If we got enough interest, I'll get it made up and get that link out to everybody.
Okay. Next month, we will be doing winterizing and preparing for winter, so we can field some questions at the end here. Vice President?
Yes, the field trip to my apiary about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, went well. I had 6 people show up, a lot of new people. They got to see firsthand what brood looked like. Going to somebody's apiary is really priceless when you're brand new. So next year, we'll be doing it in the springtime, early in the spring. That way, if we get rained out like we did this spring, we can schedule it again fairly quickly. This year, I was going out of town right after that, so we couldn't reschedule it. We had to reschedule it all the way to September. But it was just a really good experience. Everybody involved liked it, both from this club and from the Delta Beefers Club. It helped out a lot. The other thing is the Delta Beekeepers meeting is this coming Monday, 6:30 at the Oddfellows Hall in Delta. Everyone is welcome. It's on Route 92. If you have any questions about that or want to come, just come see me and I can give you directions, time, whatever you need.
Right on.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, John. Would you welcome John?
Thank you very much. So I've worked at the state health department since the turn of the century, right before the turn of the century. You don't get to say that too often. And I've been doing manufactured foods for more than half of that time. So manufactured foods is, or anything that gets produced and then is sold to another retailer or distributor, what have you. It's not like a restaurant kitchen or anything like that. I've got a background in our department. I did prisons, I did childcare, schools. Those three things are kind of the same. And I did milk and dairy for a long time. I was out here 4 to 6 times a year when I had the farms and the dairy plants that are out here or used to be. And I did my fair share of restaurants as well. But now I'm back in the manufactured food realm. I've got a few months until I retire and really looking forward to that. But it's nice to get out here one last time. So I thought I'd come by. I talked to Ralph. I talked to Ralph about labeling and some other things. So I figured there might be some questions. The difference between cottage food and manufactured food, does anybody want to hazard a guess as to that?
Commercial kitchen requirement?
Commercial, yeah, there's a ton of extra requirements, right, for manufactured foods. Right, it does require a license. It does require that you get inspected. It does require commercial level equipment or commercial grade equipment. And it requires having, doing batch tracking and having a recall plan, the training of employees. That's primarily it. A commercial kitchen is its own little nightmare or it's a good thing. I shouldn't call it a nightmare, but it has its own requirements as well, as opposed to preparing stuff in a domestic kitchen. And it's really the reason why there's a difference between cottage foods made in a home and commercial foods. I'm out here inspecting a lot of commercial production this week. Some of it unfortunately happens to be winemakers. Oh, okay, I'll suffer. That's always a good time, especially and the crush is on. So it's a pretty hectic time to be inspecting some of the wineries. But if you have questions, now's your time. They just closed the doors, so I'm trapped in here. So, does anybody, oh, there we go. Go ahead. You need some kind of food handler training, right? Yeah, food handler's card, CSU, if anybody has access to CSU, CSU has a really good course on food handling as it pertains to cottage food in particular, right? And there are some, I don't want to say riskier products, but there's some products you just put in a bag and sell. And then there are some products that take a little more skill, actual cooking and stuff like that. And we call them, well, we don't call them potentially hazardous, but if they're done wrong, they're potentially hazardous. So food handlers training is vital.
Can you just go over just the basics of what's required labeling wise and?
Yeah, sure. So you need some kind of, although I always forget one as I list, and you'll hear me slow down as I name them because I'm trying to remember which one I forgot. But you need a product identity statement. And that means it can't be Mary's Good Stuff, because I don't know what that is, right? Like Kleenex, is that an identity statement? No, it's a brand name. Unfortunately, it's not food, but it's the only one I could think of. All right, so it's got to be peach jam or something like that. So identity statement. You need a date of production for cottage food. You need a date of production under that. You need a list of ingredients if it's applicable, right? If it's just coffee beans, I think coffee beans are allowed. Okay, well, we can figure that out.
Or in this case of honey, it's just honey.
That's an even better example. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, honey is, read the room, John. Yeah, honey's an obvious, right? But a list of ingredients in descending order, if that's applicable. You need a production address. It can't be just a like a website address, right? It has to be a physical address of where the product was made or manufactured. And then you need a net weight statement down at the bottom. And then you need that glorious caveat that you put on there about how it was produced in a home kitchen, and there's a potential for exposure to allergens. I don't have the statement memorized. Does anybody, actually, I could look it up.
That's it, it's bad.
And you have that as a piece of paper on your booth, or does it have to be on the product?
It needs to be on the product. This product was produced in a home kitchen that is not subject to state licensure or inspection, and that may also process common food allergens such as tree nuts, peanuts, egg, soy, wheat, milk, fish, and crustacean shellfish. Add to that sesame seeds now. Sorry. Readable, yeah. And I, like, the older I get, the more thankful I am for an iPhone. You just take a picture of it.
Yep.
Right? Who hasn't done that? At least if you're in your fifties. This product is not intended for resale.
That disclaimer has to be word for word, cut and paste. You can't alter it one iota.
Correct.
That's what it has to be perfect.
So I just mentioned, it's easier to almost have two labels, sometimes have that part of the back and your pretty label on the front.
Right.
But I was gonna ask you, when can you call it raw honey? Like, is there a designation in your world, what makes it raw honey or not?
Yeah, if it's not, if it's coming out of the soup, the hive, it's raw. It's not heat treated, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
After the caveat. To know something.
Oh, sesame seeds.
Oh, sesame seeds are. Can we rewind? Oh, not intended for resale, yes. Thank you. Yes, we have a nice long list of info, a page just dedicated to cottage foods.
If you Google Colorado cottage food, it comes right up and it's got a big old list. It's very comprehensive. It's very easy to read. There's not a lot of legal speak in there. It's straightforward.
We also have links to that on the webpage, under the links tab on the webpage. I'm pretty sure we have a link directly to the Cottage Food Act.
And I'll put it, I found online, I'll put that link in the notes for today.
And there's a pamphlet, did you get that on our side or was that, I'm trying to. Yeah, that's us.
Okay.
There's more than one little flyer in there that has, like, it lists all the different products that are allowed and not allowed. Yes. It's suggested, if you're just giving honey to friends and family and stuff like that. But the moment you try to. Right, like, if you had a kid and you brought your kid to somebody else's house and they gave him or her baby food that they made. Trust me, I'm not busting the door down. Freeze, none of that. That's family, friends, that kind of thing. The idea is that if you're giving honey away to create a business or to attract customers, that kind of thing, then it needs label. Let's.
Just wondering what the legal implications would be for regulatory, but, if having this on something you're giving away would protect you with litigious.
Yeah, nothing to protect you. Unfortunately, I was doing an inspection today. And I told the woman, I said, if you give this stuff, if the wrong lawyer gets sick on your product, right? It doesn't matter what paperwork you have or what's on the label or whatever, you're probably in big trouble. Anybody else?
What about cut comb? Will cut comb have the same labeling requirements on it? Same thing.
I'm trapped. It's a good time. Ask questions.
I can tell you that, like you said, you get the wrong lawyer sick, you're in trouble. But the more things that you have complied with government regulations, it just looks good on your side. I've got all my stuff. I did everything I was supposed to do. I did everything the government said. And it does give you some, some legal leverage and some talking points. Whether ultimately we all know that if you get sued, it's a crapshoot, but.
Is anybody else looking for extra protections? I can recommend two things that you could do. One is keep batch records. Right? What did you do? What did you make? When did you make it? When did you package it? Right? Just keep a record of each batch that you make. And the other is to keep records of how you cleaned. What's your process of cleaning? How did you clean the equipment? Did you need to clean containers? That kind of thing. It's two small things that could really help if there's trouble. Yes. So there's some online training and, unfortunately, like I have SQ, I've got all kinds of training, but the state paid for it. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the cost is.
And you can do the online food, the one specifically for cottage food, or you can have a regular food handler's card. They're both considered, because the law says you have to have training.
Right. Like safe,
So both of them work.
safe serve or serve safe, whatever it's called. Yeah. Yes.
I believe, it has a couple of years ago, and it's at the health department, it's $10. Training and the card. It's maybe 1 hour training.
And when you're talking about your batch records, is that, or, having a production date on it, is that when I extracted it out of the comb, or is that when I bottled it?
The more info you have, the better, right? So if you extracted it and you took a couple days to package it, the question then is, well, how and where was it stored? Was it stored safely? That kind of.
Right. So really, you could do either one, but the more you're saying, the more that you have. I'm not talking about records, I'm talking about you're supposed to have it written on their production date.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be production. Excuse me.
Would that be bottling?
Production date. So if there's, we talked about heat treatment, that kind of thing, that I would put that information on there.
Okay.
Unless there's a huge gap between treatment
Right.
and then packaging.
Most everybody here is gonna put it in an extractor and extract it.
Mhm.
And then probably within a week, they're gonna have it in the bottle.
Okay.
If not, it's in 5-gallon food grade containers. So would you recommend putting when you extract it or
I would put packaging date on it.
packaging?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yes.
Does that date have to be on every,
Mhm.
so on the label?
On the label, yeah.
Stamped.
Yes.
I got a box that'll hold like 3 little tiny jars. Do I have to put it on the little tiny jars or just on the box? It's like kind of like a gift box.
So you sell the 3 jars together? Yeah, on the boxes. Just make sure the honey, it's identified, so it's not like there's no info on the jars. Yes.
You have to have that kind of label when you enter it into a county fair.
I would personally.
I can tell you the ones at the Delta County Fair had no such thing. Now, whether it was legal or not, I can tell you they didn't.
And I won't comment about different counties' health departments.
Adams County was the same way for their fair. They said no labels at all. They wanted it as blind, but you had to prove you had your cottage food license and your food handler's license.
So the fair officials.
Yeah, fair officials were pretty much the end all be all, but that was the requirements, that you had to have your cottage food license and your food service license
Okay.
in order to enter. So that way you, pretty much if you someone got sick, they know it's your jar.
So they
They're
can
coming to
keep
you.
track of it. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
So-
I took the food handlers class and the food cottage one. When I did the food cottage one online, I asked about the one that's always got me. So when people label their honey organic. So the lady that represented on the online said there is no such thing as organic.
Not for cottage food producers, right? There's 2 things. You can't label it allergen free. Because you don't have it tested, right? Yeah, I guess gluten free was good. If you have gluten in it, you're making a sandwich, right? And organic is that kind of certification comes under Department of Agriculture. They handle that. So
Unless you corral your bees. There's no way.
Well,
there's no way, even if it is.
I gotta think that too. USDA will not label any honey organic because 5 mile radius, they cannot guarantee that at all. Only organic honey that ever hits the States only comes from Brazil and China. So Brazil's actually approved the version of organic. And China, well, that's China, so yeah.
Yeah. If you're,
And that's from the National Honey Board, that claims that.
Organic, that it's not exposed to pesticides or.
No, because as far as like the organic labeling goes, you have to go through all the regulatory commissions through the USDA. As far as your fertilizer use, your treatment use, all that. There is one other certification, I can't remember the name of it. There's only one person in the nation I know of who's in the front range. But there's no such thing as organic honey from the US whatsoever. USDA will not allow it. And that's on the USDA's website itself. So.
yeah, and if you're buying Chinese honey, you're likely buying sugar water.
Yeah.
Sure you all know that.
And I don't know about this state, but in the last state that I was in, and their Cottage Food Industry Act, if you make any claim, like a health
Oh, yeah.
claim or organic or anything like that, then you have to meet, you can't be under the cottage food industry law. You have to go the full route and be commercial and get all the testing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to prove what you're saying.
And in Colorado, you're not making health claims on your honey, pretty much no matter what. So. From the government, and I'm here to help. Yeah,
Is there an amount that it's limited to, how much honey you can sell?
what is it, 10,000
It's
per
$10,000
product? So if you had clover honey versus some other kind of honey.
But to me, personally, if you.
Cut comb honey.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do cream honey, you could do lemon cream honey and cinnamon cream honey and all the different flavors, and you could make 10,000 per
On each
one.
Got it.
And if you're, I mean, if you're doing that well,
Right.
you're doing, I mean,
Never
yeah.
mind.
Well, that. But you're also, you're way better off than a lot of commercial businesses at that point, so.
But different sizes don't count. A 1 pound jar and a quart of the same thing is still one
It's the
process.
same.
I have a question about enforcement. Is there an enforcement arm? Are you gonna come get us if somebody gets sick? Is that when it gets kicked in?
So there's two ways, right? One is we respond if somebody gets ill. When I was working, when we started raw milk sales through milk shares in Colorado, I was in up to my neck in milk and dairy at that time. And I ended up visiting a lot of people who got people sick. So there's that. You get somebody sick, we have to respond to that. There's also people will rat you out, right? And it can be somebody who just doesn't like your product. It can be, I'm sure it would never happen amongst honey producers, but somebody might be jealous of your success, right? And they're happy to, whether real or not, they'll say something bad about your business and then you have to respond.
It's also easy for people to get just upset with the boss. And spread that.
Yeah.
But you have to receive a complaint or somebody has to get sick. There's no enforcement arm that's just gonna come around looking.
If we're, so we have, I don't know if they have them out here, but in Denver, we've got there's 1 or 2 retail shops where the people in the shop are designated, what's it called?
Representatives.
Thank you. Designated representatives for the cottage food companies. It's kind of a workaround, but whatever, right? So sometimes, we'll visit those stores, or sometimes Whole Foods used to be really bad. Whole Foods, we used to play this game, how many unlicensed producers can you find in 20 minutes at Whole Foods? And we would just split up, and it wasn't because we were looking for trouble or anything. It was really just a game, because most of the time we're like, okay. But if we're out and about,
When do we have to worry?
you have to worry
Now, when do any of us have to worry
if
about
you're
you
not
guys?
doing the right thing.
Somebody gets sick.
Oh, yeah. And even if you are doing the right thing and somebody gets sick, yeah. Yeah. But we don't, find one mistake on a label and then we drive out to the West Slope to kick somebody. So,
Is it? What is it?
so the vast majority of food recalls and foodborne illness happens at packaging, right? Something happens at packaging, whether it's mislabeled or somebody didn't wash equipment, somebody didn't wash their hands, whatever, right? So it's tough, right? Because well, I mean, you know, she mentioned infants not eating honey, right? So infant botulism. So you have a low or no oxygen environment. So there's not a lot of organisms that can survive in that. But the ones that can, the spore formers, are really, really bad, right? So other than like adulteration, just regular adulteration, somebody got something in there, the foreign objects, that kind of thing, right?
Metal shavings from equipment, from bearings going out with your extractor, something like that.
So if something happened like that, where you got called or somebody got sick or something, then you would come to my kitchen and look at all of my stuff that I mean, what would happen at that point?
That would have to happen, or there would have to be some kind of investigation.
But at that point, you're already done. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
everything is in my shed, it's thrown away.
Right,
So you wouldn't be able to see an actual operation of how that happened.
that's right, but I mean, we'd still have to go through the practice of that. You'd have to drag your equipment.
Just
We-
for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the potential to do environmental monitoring, right? So we would do, depending on what if there was an organism involved, a pathogen involved, then we would have to do swabs and stuff like that. So, yeah. No, we don't have the power to fine. We have the power to embargo. And we also have the power to ask you to voluntarily condemn, right? So you can withdraw your product from market or whatever, and you open up each one and adulterate it, pour bleach in, throw it in the trash, pour bleach over everything, that kind of thing. If you choose not to do that and your product needs to be removed from market, then we embargo it. And in an ironic twist, right? We piled the product up, and because we're the government, we put this special red tape around it. It's like, if you try to peel it off, it leaves a residue like that spells out broken or something, you know, I forget what it says. But the idea is that once the product is embargoed, then you have to wait, then you're waiting on us. You can't touch it, you can't move it. And then we'll come, we release the embargo, we take some stuff, we go have it tested. Stuff still has to stay put. And again, you've got to wait on our test results, and then, you know, does it go to trial, that kind of thing. For beekeepers, have I ever done that for? Oh, it happens like once a week easily.
You've done you're about ready to retire, and you've been doing this. Have you ever seen a hobby beekeeper, something like that happen where you embargoed the product, or they got sued, or, they got fines or anything like that?
I know we had, at one point, I wasn't involved. We did have one product that may have caused some issues. There was an investigation and they couldn't quite prove it because it wasn't really an outbreak. Well, it wasn't an outbreak, but it's not like it was spread out all over multiple counties and stuff like that. So it wasn't definitely honey, but it kind of pointed. I've been on lots of these different outbreak investigations.
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn my back on everybody. I've done lots of them.
Mhm.
And you can almost, like, if this is the cause, you can do this. You can't touch it, right? It's almost impossible to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that it was this, but you can get really close to it. So,
And you've only, in your experience, only been one
30
time
years.
in 30
once,
years,
Yeah.
right? Now, let's just say that we have product out at a fair or whatever, and you guys come by and it's not labeled correctly. What are you going to do?
So it would either be us or it would be your local, your county
Right.
health department.
Okay,
County health. What, me personally, and not just because I'm about to retire, I would say, hey, your labels need to be fixed. That's what I would do. I'm not too worried about
right.
it. I love paperwork. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna need to take several of these home. I just, look, I like, I've said this for 30 years. I want to be a resource for you, not a regulator.
Right,
I don't get any kicks hitting people over the head with a stick. So, that would be my approach. You'll have younger or inexperienced inspectors, maybe they're trying to make a name for themselves or get a promotion, or, you know, if they have enough bad cases in their briefcase, they feel good about themselves, that kind of thing. A lot of counties will have employees that kind of overreact to that. They'll call us. Say, hey, are these guys registered with you? Is it Cottage Food? Then no, they're not registered. Have to be. Well, their labels are all. How bad is it? Right?
yeah,
You know, if they contact us, we'll try to talk them down. But if, you know, if they've got a, you know what up there, whatever.
Right.
They're gonna do it.
I can tell you the Delta Health Department, I've dealt with them extensively through the Delta Farmers Market. And they will do everything in the world to help you. If you're not in compliance, they will tell you how to come in compliance. They will give you resources to come in compliance. And they work with you and you get it done. If you refuse, that's a different story, and they do have the right to do a lot of things. But as long as you work with them, they're happy to do everything in the world to help you out to come within compliance.
You might not get the same reaction in Denver. That's all I'll say about Denver. Yes.
Hey, you're gonna make me sick. Your options, and like, how do you go about testing the honey?
Has anybody ever had a foodborne illness? Did you blame it on the last meal you ate at McDonald's? Or did you blame it on your mom's cooking that you had 24 hours earlier? Yeah. But to be fair, how many people have gotten sick the day after Thanksgiving? And not just because you ate too much. I'm talking about it's coming out both ends. That kind of thing. If you're gonna get foodborne illness, it's Thanksgiving Day, because God bless your mom, but there's only so much she can do as far as food safety goes when she's making 72 different dishes for 1,200 people, or, you know, whatever. Right? So however big your family is, right? So foodborne illness is rare, but when it happens, it'll ruin a couple of days, at least a couple of hours, if not a couple of days of your life. So the point is, there's no way that person can prove it unless they have infant botulism and a test result, right? Well, my doctor said, here it is, right? I don't know how you got infant botulism, but. You know, so I would treat them well, right? Don't get mad. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that kind of thing. And maybe tease it out of them to see if where. Because when somebody gets sick, we have to do when there's an outbreak, we have to do an interview, and it's called the food history. And they have to cover the last 3 days of what they ate. Most people can't even do the day before, right? Like I do this for a living, and I don't even remember everything I ate yesterday. And I was in a car for 4 hours on my way here, right? So, yeah, people will say they got sick on whatever, but it's not likely.
Let's say
Well, if you misspelled honey, shame on you. But if you misspelled the address, okay. If you have a Sharpie, yeah. It's Cottage Food, it's not rocket science. You can fix that. Or laugh. When you sell it to each person. I'm trying to spell it this way from now on. It's a movement. Try it at home. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I have a question for you
Sure.
about the labeling requirement of putting your address on it. Okay, I came from Virginia 10 years ago and there was an issue there. They wanted, their law was like yours. You have to have the address on there. Well, some of the mothers, whose girls were baking cookies for the bake sale, says, I don't want a pedophile to come by here and look at my girl and then have her address. And so the state dropped that requirement, said you had to have your phone number, we need to get a hold of you. As long as we can get a hold of you, we're not gonna push that. Has there been any talk like that in Colorado?
No.
There needs to be. And you're the person who needs to be.
Yeah,
Bring that up.
so we have this thing called MFOD, it's manufactured food of the day. You get to phrase it positively, you get the chance, you get the opportunity to talk to a lot of cottage food producers who have questions about buttercream, for the love of God, right? If there is a woman in this state that isn't upset about the fact that she can't make buttercream for cottage food, that's a rare person indeed. Yes, right, but you can't, but that's, God not allowed. So we get people who just, oh, well, I absolutely refuse to put my address on there because I don't want people showing up at my house. Well, maybe you should make better cookies then.
Now, I'm saying it because I'm just selfish and I don't want to have to put all that on my label.
Right.
That's my take on it. But these people pushed that safety issue to the point they got it removed. Just trying to start something in the state of Colorado like that, where they can, as long as you can get a hold of us with a good phone number, a good address, whatever, then.
Yeah, I know. So we essentially take a lot of our requirements from what FDA. And FDA, if you could believe it, the federal government has waffled over this issue multiple times and said that as long as you can, if you have the name of the facility and you could look it up and it's in the yellow pages, that's good enough. But that's a commercial.
They have to be able to find you.
Yeah. So that's that's a commercial address.
Right.
Maybe not worried about pedophiles.
So based on that, does that be the physical address or can it be a PO box?
I'm pretty sure. Let's see if it's changed.
It says physical.
It says physical address.
Yeah.
Town.
It's not an either or, telephone number and, or it is an either or, a telephone number and email.
Right,
So it's gotta be physical address and one of the other two.
right.
It's a lot of personal information.
Phone number or email at producer's name, phone number or email address at which the food was prepared.
So when there's labels around town that is say that this was from Fruita, Colorado or Palisade, Colorado, and that's all it says for an address, that's not.
Let's go get them. Let's form the posse.
What I'd like to do is just put that part.
Which you would think that if you put that and your phone number on there, especially if you put all that on there, right? Right now, it's still physical.
But let me say this also. I've been producing honey from Grand Junction to Delta since 2016. I've been to all kinds of fairs everywhere up and down both the North Fork Valley and the Grand Valley. I have never seen a bottle of honey from a cottage food producer that has been labeled correct. Not one. I have not seen, I ran the Delta Farmers Market for 4 years. Never seen everything everybody else puts on their cookies and everything that's properly labeled. Never seen it.
I guess I need to spend another week out here.
I'm just saying, my whole point is that don't get caught up and think you're gonna get fined and think you're gonna get thrown in jail. If it ever comes to light, they're gonna say, hey, this label doesn't meet the requirements, maybe you need to change it. Okay, don't get thinking in getting product liability insurance and all this stuff, you know.
And don't be expensive.
Exactly,
That's a good idea. I'll have to do that.
exactly.
I'll make some.
Did you have something?
Well, I was just looking on this and it says your current address where the food was produced, then it says, and the next one says current phone number or email address. So we need that also.
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
If I'm making a label, and bring it on the paper, I'm only giving away. Does that some need to be interpreted as a private legally? In any way?
I mean, the label would indicate that, but your lack of profit would also indicate that you're just a,
Be considered private?
no. Anybody else? So my contact info, I dread doing this. Well, hey, I'm only here until December
That's
20th.
right.
Yeah, but I won't be.
You give up your.
Sorry if this is too small. You can take a picture and blow it up.
He'll get it on our Zoom call and
Make sure I don't get my moment.
we can put it on in a minute.
So John, no-H, dot, Strauss, like the composer, at state.co.us, that's me. We have the MFOD address, email address, which is on the website. There's a 1 in 7 chance if you send that email to that address, you'll get me. Because we take turns covering. But, sorry, either way. Like I say, I like helping people more than I like yelling at them.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's better for me too. It's good karma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I was gonna ask you, what's your most bizarre thing that you've had to do in your career? Dang, I was close to the door.
The most bizarre thing I had to do, so like I said, I worked in milk and dairy, and in Inglewood, Colorado, there was medical dairy. They were getting a new roof put on, and they were heating tar up, right? The guys that were up there were heating tar up, and something caught on fire, and the intake for their ice cream freezer sucked all the smoke into their ice cream freezer, right? Where they had packaged ice cream. The company wasn't bonded, so the guys on the roof just ran like hell and took off. They never saw them again. So for insurance purposes, they called me up, and I had to condemn $500,000 worth of ice cream. And you know, I'd turn the corner, I'm like, oh no, not the butter brickle. Oh my God. Let me stick with flavors. A year to the day later, they had an ammonia leak in that same, to the day, ammonia leak in that same freezer. I had to condemn another $500,000 worth of it.
Oh.
It still hurts my. Still hurts my stomach.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna set the table sideways here, and then we're ready set up. Just here in the middle. We have trophies. First, second, third, and